Hello again, and welcome to Interview with DJ Nocturna. This morning, I have a guest, special guest here. He is the founder of his own project called Unicode Machine. I have Eric Kristoffer,
Hello.
all the way from Texas. Yeah, thank you for joining me. Oh, it's a pleasure to have you.
Yeah,
Yeah, you've been doing
yeah.
quite an amazing just producing the music and the album that's been coming out, the music you've been doing on the dance floor as well,
Yeah.
has a really good beat. Practically everything, every single track. You know how some bands you only have like one or two tracks, and that's good for the dance floor. But you've been doing pretty good. Like
Yeah.
when you hit the German charts with the song,
Yeah.
um, and you have a new album that's just came out, right? October. Yeah,
Yep.
this month. Yeah.
October 6th.
Okay,
Yep.
yeah. So perfect timing. Critical Fault is called, and is released on Cop International. So
Mhm.
you gotta be, like I was just saying, we got some friends there, and really glad to have you in the show.
And thank you for having me.
Yeah. So I know you just were you at the you just completed an event, right? You were at the Dark City Fest.
Yes, the Dark
Oh
City
yeah,
Fest is a new festival in New Orleans. Yeah.
oh yeah. How was that? Was that good?
Um, it was fun. It was fun. Erin and Jason, Erin, she does a lot of local events in burlesque, and she partly runs. I don't think she has an ownership stake, but she's at Boutique de Vampire, which is right next to the Vampire Cafe down there. And Jason, he's got his band that he does, Livernois and stuff like that. So far though, he's pretty like the entire event was fantastic, and for a first run out, it was really tightly run, and it was they were a great group of people to work with.
Yeah. Well, you have a really good what is the your energy is really good. I love your energy. It really just speaking to you right now. I mean, it's amazing. So I can see the success of a lot of the things you've been doing, you know. So can you tell us? Let's go back. I know you probably repeated this to so many interviews you've done, but let's talk about your name. Because people listening here might not know. They want to know
Sure.
what is Unicode machine. Because think about I like that. What is that? A colon? How you put a colon?
Yeah. The
Yeah.
Yeah. So the band name itself, and yeah, it's a weird name for a lot of people.
No,
But the
I think
band
it's
name
cool.
itself kind of came. Well, it came out of slightly as partly as a joke and partly as a nickname. So initially, my nickname in high school, because a friend of mine knew too many Erics, he's like, I can't call you Eric. I know too many of them. And I'm like, okay, fine, just call me Machine or something. And it just kind of stuck.
Oh, yeah.
So using that my nickname from effectively from high school, I was like, well, I want to start a band, and I had some ideas for other bands in the past and things like that, and but it never really kind of panned out with those other names. And I was like, you know what? Let's be completely nerdy here, and because like Unicode is a format, and I like technology, and I was really into computers as a kid. So I'm like, well, we'll just kind of make it sound more industrial by using unit code, because like Unit 187 and other
Mm.
types of bands around that time frame having unit, or like mechanically sounding names like Frontline Assembly or something to that extent. I'm like, yeah, I'll go with that. That seems great. And I threw a colon in there only because it was like, well, Wumpscut puts colons in things, so I'll just go ahead and put one in the center of my name.
Oh wow. Yeah. So this is like going. So you're going back. So you actually have that memory of that name, and you kept it all along. And then, I mean, who would ever think,
Mhm.
right? You would form this project many years down the road.
Oh no, Unicode's been going on since 2000,
Yeah.
2001, since I've
Yeah.
been
Yeah.
writing and producing,
Yeah.
and
That's
high
why.
school.
Yeah. That's why I'm thinking that you had this idea, this name ever since high school, right?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, high school. My last year of high school was the year 2000, so
Oh,
I'm
okay.
still a
Okay.
young puppy.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
Well,
Wow.
I still feel like a young pup.
Yeah, but that's a
Um,
long time. No, 2004 is a long time to me. That goes way back when. Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
it may. I mean, it's not, more recent stuff is like, I don't know, like 5 years ago. Yeah, yeah. But
Well, the thing is like I haven't really started taking off until like the last couple of years was when I released themes for a collapsing empire that got a lot of people's attention. Um, and I worked with like Emily from and Greg and a whole bunch of really great people on getting that album done, and that kind of when I started getting sent out to PR folks and news endpoints and stuff like that, people were like, "Wow, this is we've heard like some of the people are like we've heard of this man before, but this is just completely leaps and bounds above what he was doing previously." So
yeah, going back to, you're saying the earlier album, there's an earlier one called Time Frame, right?
yes, that was my first album that I had released.
Yeah. So who
That
people want to hear that? Is that still available somewhere?
so luckily um with the advent of what is it, the newest version of FL Studio, I think I might be able to recover. The data itself was lost. I think I've found WAV files,
Mm-hmm.
but based off of the condition of where it is currently, if I were to do any type of release of it outside of the CDs that I have in backlog, I'd want to any type of digital release. I hope to take those once I upgrade my DAW or digital audio workstation. I plan on trying to do the stem extraction, the AI stem extraction, and kind of remaster the album, because that would be something that I would prefer to do before releasing anything. And I feel like it would be a good time to quote unquote remaster it. But it is very much a product of its time. Very early on, I was writing music, did not know a lot about things, and it ended up like. And so my first album was along the lines of musique concrète, um, and or musique concrete, and it was very more sample focused than anything else. So it was more like an art project than it was a an actual album.
Mm-hmm. So has there been a lot of people that has heard this album, Time Frame? I mean, I don't know
Uh,
if you ever released it back in the day, like somewhere on I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't
well,
know.
I do have physical copies still. I have a handful of physical copies left, and I do sell it on my Bandcamp.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Um, Yeah, yeah. There's still physical copies left. They were professionally released. I mean, I had them mass produced and stuff like that. Um, so yeah, they're still available,
Oh, okay.
but it's very limited quantities right now. But so there is physical media, but I have to get to the point where I am updated my DAW and extract the WAV files to make it the new one. To effectively, I want to take what data I have and try to remaster it
Mm-hmm. Okay.
and make it where people can listen to it that way.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that. So, this latest album, Critical Fault, tell us about that and how that came about.
So the idea of critical fault came as roughly around the same time as themes for a collapsing empire. Uh, so to address critical fault, I have to kind of start with themes. Themes was kind of the idea came around because I was losing people from COVID and things like that, and how the world was impacting me and stuff like that. And how all of this, how the world was impacting me was kind of the focus of themes. Critical Falls is more of the focus of throughout my history. How have I made an impact on myself? How has this character that I've tried to put myself as, with Unicode machine being this character that I'd always thought I was, how has he impacted me? And
Mm.
the idea behind that was a struggle between two identities, trying to figure out which one is the real one.
Right, right. And so the production of this is also produced by Christopher Hall. Tell us
Yes.
how I know he's been working with you quite a bit. How did you guys collaborated?
So when we were doing the collaboration for this, it was mostly digitally. So what I would do is I would write a song, uh, over a couple of days, I'd write one of the songs, and if I thought it was good enough, I'd send it over to him. I would send him, my example of what it was initially, and then I would send him the vocal takes, the synth sounds that I was using, because we were both using the same instruments, so we were able to pass patches back and forth. And then I would send him the MIDI tracks. And what he would do is he would take it and kind of make rearrangements and adjust some sounds and make things sound, crisper here or heavier there, so on and so forth.
No, I mean, you guys had an interesting meeting when you first met him, right? I don't know if that was the first time. Yeah, you wanna talk
Uh,
about that?
so so we met back in 2021 at Cold Waves. I had this was my first solo cold waves for me to go up there by myself. I'd been there with with a friends a few times in the past, but this time I went up there. I was going to promote the album that I just released in August, and it was a weird situation. Sunday night we closed. Stabbing Westward was closing the headliner of the event, so we were hanging out watching the show. I was standing around with Ilker half the night. Ilker from Regen magazine, and after the performance, we all went over to G-Man, closed that out, and I was standing outside after the bars had closed with Greg Rolfus, um, and because we had both come up there and stuff like that, and the the thing was is that Chris came out. Both of us were quite drunk. We were waiting for a lift because responsibly.
Yeah, okay, cool.
uh, Responsibility is important. But so we were waiting for a lift to come, and Chris had come out, and he was kind of standing on there in there, and I'm like, hey, you're Greg, you're basically the representative for COP here, because Christian Petka was supposed to be there, but he couldn't come. Um, so Greg was there, and when I said you need to go talk to him, he's like, no, man, you go talk to him. I'm like, and I was a little drunk, and I was like, oh, okay, sure. I walk over to him. I start, sheepishly talking to him, and then security walks up, and they were like, and I was thinking to myself, okay, they're going to tell me to go away, don't bother the talent. But when they were like, hey, so there's a shooting incident over at Smart Bar at the present moment. We need everybody in the alleyway because there's an alleyway between G-Man and Metro. Uh,
Mm.
and and so we're all standing in the alleyway. It's Greg, Chris, Hall, and myself standing next to a trash can. And I thought to myself, well, if this is the night I'm going to die, I might as well ask him for a remix.
So you
So,
actually asked him right there at that moment?
well, I mean, at that point, like he seemed pretty calm and cool and collected. So I'm like, and at that point, I was like, well, I'm at that point, it was an adrenaline situation. They're telling us not to move, and I might as well make best of a worse situation. So I'm like, I started a conversation about how, I own some sequential synthesizers. He owned the same brand at the same time, and we got into a conversation about how I like the synthesizer. I like the Pro 3, but I'm not a big fan of the software engine that they use. And it was funny because he had kind of similar complaints with that. And from there, it just kind of went back and forth. And it was kind of funny because it was one of those situations where I had said, or like asked him how much he charged for remixes. He told me, and I'm like, okay, great. Can I get your email address? And he told me this really long email address. I'm not going to repeat it, but when he told me it, I'm like, okay, if you didn't really want to do a remix, you didn't have to give me this like long, stupid long, stupid email. And he's like, no. He holds up his phone and shows me. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm sorry for questioning you. Kind of laughing it off a little bit. A couple months later, I reached out to him. I'm like, hey, can I? Would it be possible to get a remix from you? I've got a single a single that I'm getting a whole bunch of people that I want remixes from, and that became the I guess maxi single or EP for Falling Down. And from there, he's like, if you ever need somebody to help produce an album, just reach out to me. And I'm like, okay, cool. And then sometime around February or March the following year, so this was 2022. I reached out to him and I'm like, hey, I don't know if you remember me, but I'd be interested in getting production work. Can we have a conversation? And the rest is history. Critical Fault got produced.
That is amazing. You know, it's those stories like that that really do. I mean, people, who would ever think, right? Sometimes I wonder if that's like something that triggered out in the astrology chart. I mean, it really
It's,
is. It's like I mean, if you didn't go to this event and he wasn't there, and this thing didn't happen outside, the commotion, right? Then
yeah,
you wonder what would have happened, you know?
yeah. A series of events that if one thing was out of place, I wouldn't be where I'm at today.
And I'm sure Greg, who does the amazing artwork on the how many, it was the last two albums, I think. I don't know if there's anything else he did for you, but amazing work.
So he's done the album artwork for Themes for a Collapsing Empire.
Hmm.
He did the single artwork for um, Undone, the single Undone. He
Yeah,
did the artwork for the single of Cold, and he did the album artwork for Critical Faults.
yeah, yeah. He does a lot of great stuff. I mean, I see it on Facebook. It's like, yeah, it's amazing. So, how did you and Greg meet up? So he was there too, but I take it that you've known him before that too as well.
So meeting Greg was less eventful. So with so I actually was like it was funny because I had went onto the Sounds and Shadows Facebook group and
Yeah.
it was asking, hey, I'm looking for an artist who would be a good artist to
Oh,
work with. And I got a list of people and stuff like that. And then Greg's name was in that list. And I was looking through some of the people's work and I saw Greg's. And Greg's reminded me a little bit of the work from like, um, God, was it Dave McKean? The guy who did the artwork
yeah, yeah,
for,
yeah. For Delirium.
yeah, Delirium and Frontline Assembly's
Yeah.
Hardwired album.
Oh, God, yeah, totally.
Um,
Hmm.
and I was like, and because it like I was trying to make one of my things principle is try to make an album completely listenable from end to end that's absolutely amazing. Like in my opinion, this is and opinions are subjective, but in my opinion, I think Frontline Assembly's Hardwired is end to end. I could listen to that whole album without skipping a track. It's that good to me. And I wanted to do that, and I wanted to have the artwork that stood up with that. So that's why I was wanted to reach out with him. And then when I found out that he did the artwork for the Velvet Antichrist's Twisted Thought Generator, I was like, oh wow, I loved that album, and I loved the artwork for it. And it was really cool to just like work with somebody who had a hand in some of the things that help inspire me to be. And it's weird because a lot of the people that I've been like working with or having adjacent communications with have all been people that have, you know, had some type of an impact on me as an artist.
Yeah, yeah. So how do you normally collaborate with in the artwork? Do you tell him like, okay, this is what the song's about, this is what the album's gonna be it's about, and I'm looking for something, or does he because I mean it really it tells a story, right? On the album cover.
Yeah,
It's somebody who may
yeah,
not
and albums.
yeah what it was about. They look at the album cover, it immediately opens up this whole thing for the mind to absorb and say, if somebody like saw your music in the record store, right? I know that we still have record stores.
So yeah,
Uh, I
there's a
mean,
few good ones around here.
yeah, I'm hoping it will always stay that way and not just online. I mean, records are like whenever I go to San Francisco, I go to Amoeba Records. Like I live in Hawaii, right? So I mean, we got record
Yeah.
stores too, but when I go somewhere, that's why I mean, when people see on the album cover, they want to feel it and they want to touch it, and
Hmm.
so it's great. I mean, yeah, so you guys must collaborate to make the thing working together with the artist
Hmm.
and the music really coincides, right?
Yeah. So when I'm working on or like the idea, a lot of the times I try to give kind of like a word board or something to that extent. You know, things about what the album means. Also giving them the song so that way they can listen to them themselves and kind of get an idea of what it's going like. Because a lot of the times certain sounds can evoke images.
Right.
They can evoke you know thoughts or feelings or things like that. And um, Sorry, I was just getting a notification in the background. I'm like, no, I don't want to download Windows 11. um, the but this, so there was a lot of emotions that you can evoke from instances like that, and I want the artwork to kind of feed into that, and it makes sense. It made sense to continue to work with Greg, because the idea of this was it's not just a 2 chapter story, it's a 3 chapter story. So there's going to be a third album that I want to release along with this. The first two being themes and critical fault. The next one, having telling the third chapter of the story. Um,
Oh, okay.
and and its whole, like, I wanted all the artwork to be unified and have some major similarities and connect with each other, so that way when people look at them they can go, oh, this is actually supposed to be like a box set.
Oh, that's a great idea actually. That's yeah, that's so it's like what is that called in music when you tell a story like a record
a,
that
a, nar-
was
a, a,
um yeah
narrative storytelling, or
yeah it's kind of like a narrative yeah. God, I can't. No, it's gonna bother me now. I'll remember probably after the interview. You know how rock bands they have it's kind of like a storyline of the album. It tells a story. I guess I can't remember, but anyway, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
So
Well, thank you.
is there something? So what is coming up for this album? I know so there'll be more than more stuff going on, right?
So for Critical Faults, we are probably going to release another single. Haven't I'm kind of shopping around, trying to reach out to some other artists to kind of figure out what we want to use, or not what we want to use, but what availability that's there. Um, One of the things that we're working on right now is uh, we're working on trying to get onto some tours and stuff like that. I would like to try to get out onto the road more with Critical Fault, and kind of get that fleshed out and pushed out. It was weird because I found that I was very creative. I found that while I was out on the road, I had lots and lots of ideas that were coming to mind.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got home, we were able to just crank out the rest of the album in like a month and a half, 2 months. And we'd only had 2 songs ready by that point before I even left to go on the road. So, um,
Oh, so
and I want to get back out on the road so that way I can,
oh yeah,
get that
get the
buildup
creative.
of energy.
So what do you think is starts the process of that inspiration? Because I know when you go on the road, I mean, does it happen sometimes? You know, different people experience it differently. Sometimes people wake up and they dreamt about it, that kind of thing.
So for me, my whole writing process is more a sense of catharsis. So I'm just trying to do self examination of what's going on in my personal life, and then try to write music around it, leaving out like specific details, and try to making it more of a broad emotional sense. At least at the current present moment in time, I'm not like I know that, like, I had ideas of what I wanted to put the albums together and what they should be like as a root idea. So the idea will have like an initial, for an entire body of work. We'll have a base idea, and then from that base idea, examining all the webbing or the connection points from all sides of that. Losing friend, like in the case of specifically of Critical Fault. Like exploring the self-doubt, exploring topics of like self-harm and um, unaliving someone, so yourself, because this is winding up on YouTube. I don't want to use the S word.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's okay. Yeah.
um, but yeah, self-doubt, self-termination, uh, fighting with yourself just to find who you are. The feeling of like isolation,
Mm-hmm.
even though you had this whole idea about it, yeah, it's myself, but it's my own battle, and I have no one else who can fight it with me, type thing. And these are all the ideas that are related to this like war with self,
Mhm.
the war between two parties for critical fault. So, and that was kind of that approach where I wanted to take from for this album.
Yeah, I noticed too that mastering is by Eric of is that no device, right?
Eric
He,
Ayler from Old Null Device, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So he was also, I did an interview with him. If people want to check that out on my YouTube channel. And
Hmm.
yeah, and Christian is also with John Fryer on an interview some time ago. I think it was about a couple of years, maybe 2 years ago, the very first time I launched the channel. So yeah, so you got a lot of great people here, and of course Greg, who does amazing artwork always. And I love the song. What's this? Nothing Left. I love that. I mean, the lyrics are so important, right? I mean, I
Yeah,
feel lyrics are so important because they really get the people on the dance floor too. I mean, it's not just sound; it's also lyrics. Because that, if you notice, um, people sing it, so if they sing, it means that they like the lyrics, and that's important. I always emphasize lyrics are the importance of lyrics besides the whole creation of the album of the music, right? But that's great.
sure.
I mean, I know this album was released already and is on COP International. People wanna check that out. COP is it COPINT dot com? I want to make sure that's
Uh,
correct.
yeah, copint.com. Yep,
Yes,
that's
COPINT. I memorized because I kept saying it many few times. So yeah, yeah. Well, big shout out to Christian and and of course Mooncoil Media, William and Christian at Copy National. Um and uh and I know you got Emily too doing in previously in the previous album, Drift Away, right? Emily Rohn, Chiasm.
yes. Yeah, she did the vocals on that.
Yeah, so I
Yep.
in the future, do you plan on having more female vocalists on the album? I think it's beautiful, honestly.
Um it kind of depends on the subject matter and how I'm writing and stuff
True.
like that. Drift
That's
Away
true.
felt like so I initially wrote that track and I realized that the track didn't suit my voice. So
Mm,
uh when I was like, my first thought was, is like, well, I need to reach out to a female vocalist. What female vocalists do I know? And while I know a lot of female vocalists, my first thought was to reach out to Emily, and she she said yes almost instantaneously, um, which I was really shocked that she said yes.
I
So
she's great. Yeah, Chiasm's been around for a long time too. So
yeah,
yeah. Wow, congratulations on your latest album, and I'm sure you'll be making more, and it will just get better and better each time. Well,
yep, that's the idea.
you are a computer tech kind of guy. I could see all the background thing you have there in the back, and
Oh, the just all the synthesizers.
yeah, and and by just about what you're telling me, where you are and everything, I can tell that the equipment, the machine kind of thing, right? So
Yeah.
that's great. I mean, I mean, I'm loving. I've always loved electro industrial. I mean, it's all part of what gets people on the floor, right? So,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. So anyway, if people want to reach out to you and check out your music, I know you're in Bandcamp. Unit,
Yep. You.
Unicode is unicode.bandcamp.com. If people want to, so there's
Yep.
unicode.bandcamp.com, and of course, international.com, and and I'm sure there'll be we'll check we'll see more down the road. Yeah,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, do you have anything planned or coming up besides the tours and anything in mind? You know?
Uh, um, I once I get through these with these right now I'm in kind of in the business mode. So I'm like, okay, so now what do I have to do? I need to get shows, I need to get tours, I need to get on those things. So right now I don't have anything musically set up or ready to go at any point in time. But when I start working again, it'll probably be again with Chris. He's looking forward to working on a new album with me already, and it's kind of the same with me. I'm looking forward to working with him again. Um, but in the future, we should. I hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll have start work on a new album sometime in 2024. in between tours and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. So the inspiration will come from the tours.
Yeah, it seems to be that's the next step. That's the next feeling that I have. It's like touring kind of makes things feel more real now.
Right, right. Well, everybody's touring now, so that's great. Okay,
Yeah.
well, gosh, well, thank you, Unicode Machine, for being on the show.
Yep. Well, thank you for having me.